Hello, Internet.
Hello, Internet. How are you?
Welcome.
Today we've got Cam and Tyler from the Subspace Transmissions podcast. Tyler and Cam. Sorry, I wrote it the other way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's because
You immediately fucked it
alphabetically
up.
my brain is just like C then T. That's what we do. And so
This, of course, is Outrage Factory, the podcast where we look at the things that made you mad online this week and explain why you're dumb for caring. I'm Derek, and that guy over there.
I'm Dale. And that's Tyler, and down at the bottom is Cam. They're probably not in the same order.
That's not my order at all.
It's
and
not my
now
order either.
I'm just confused who I am at this point.
Oh, okay.
Welcome, gents. Thanks for joining us this wacky and wild Saturday evening to discuss some shit that's been going on.
Are we allowed to say eventless? Like, instead of like people are like, oh, it's been an eventful week, we just be like, this isn't even unprecedented times anymore. It's just eventless. As far as
There's nothing that can surprise me at this point.
Well, yeah. I know something that could surprise you if you suddenly got a DM saying somebody wanted to take a bite out of you and eat it.
Well, that's how Tyler and I met.
They say romance
Let's
is
say
dead.
who's the one that sent the DM, though.
Yeah, that's true. It'll just be a surprise. Yeah, so that's my supremely professionally well-crafted segue into talking about Armie Hammer and the bullshit that he did in the DMs of, what was her name? Do you guys know?
Apparently, there were lots of women that came forward to say that, like, yeah, this is the shit he was into. But
they're freaked out by it. That this is not a pleasant experience for them, and he seems a lot more serious than I initially thought based on that first headline that I read a few days ago.
Yeah, like I feel like if you're gonna get into like this always starts at S&M and then just goes way too far. But if you're gonna like start maybe playing with S&M
Always?
or like role play
Dale
stuff, I guess.
speaking from experience.
Maybe build a foundation of trust with your potential partner instead of just bombarding them with graphic and violent requests or demands, which it
Hear
seems
that,
like
Cam?
Armie Hammer did.
Hey, Dale's the one that puts a D in BDSM.
Oh, was it beds, Dales, and sexual maturity?
Let's not.
Yes, it's funny because it's one of those headlines when you see it, you're like, is this going to be the sort of thing? Like, you know, I'm old enough to remember the whole like ridiculous Richard Gere and a gerbil thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's the
right.
sort of thing, right? Like that's the sort of thing I thought of when I saw the headline, and then you read it and you're like, oh dear,
Yeah.
oh dear. Like this definitely sounds like a career killer. This is the sort of thing that gets very dark, very, very dark to read the accounts of these DMs.
Yeah, you can't
Also
just
kinda
brush this
doubling
stuff
down
off.
on it. It seems
Yeah.
like he seems very serious about it. And then if you look at people on Twitter, they're also kind of recounting like how this is kind of, and so it's like it looks as if he's already taken leave from a film at this point.
Mhm.
He did, yeah.
I don't know. I like Armie Hammer, the presence on the big screen. I don't know how this is going to like reformat the way that I go to an Armie Hammer movie moving forward.
Does this affect the Lone Ranger sequel we've all been waiting for? That's all I can remember him from.
Ask Johnny Depp where he's getting his next job.
Yeah, I think he's in rougher shape PR wise than Armie Hammer at this point.
Yeah, he might also need the sequel of Lone Ranger 2 as well as Armie Hammer now needs it.
That would be the most problematic, unwanted sequel you could ever imagine.
That's true. Even if they were like, oh, it's not a sequel, it's a reboot of the movie franchise.
I'm trying to think of a more problematic, unwanted sequel, but I'm like, did Kevin Spacey and Bill Cosby ever star in something together? Like that.
Jeez.
That
Leonard
I think would be at
7?
the top. Yeah. What?
The movie Leonard 6 with Bill Cosby, but make the sequel of that and call it Leonard 7. It's
Does
Not
anyone
obscure.
remember Leonard Six? I feel like this is the most
You are like-
obscure
you're
reference you
just-
could have made.
You were dropping the obscure references. Dale, before we started recording, also referenced the secret identity of Pokeroo from the children's show Polka Dot Door.
That's not an obscure reference. Pokeroo was part of everybody who didn't have cable's childhood.
I can tell you who Pokeroo. I can't tell you who the guy was that like changed into him.
It was Dennis.
Thank you, Dale.
And it was always in the sandbox. I don't know. I mean, I felt like I was Sherlock Holmes when I figured out Pokeroo was actually Dennis dressed up in a costume, and that's why they were never on screen at the same time. And then upon thinking about it further, I was pretty ham-fisted, so it was obvious to what was going on.
I remember
Don't
watching the
mention
Polka
the
Dot
word
Door. but-
ham-fisted. Armie Hammer will get hungry.
No, Tyler, it's now Hammerable Lecter.
Oh,
Nice.
damn, nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
no, that's a pretty hammer-fisted sort of pun you're trying to make there, Cam.
Nice. I was going to say, I only read the accounts from the one person, and it wasn't the actual cannibal stuff, but it was like the stuff I read, like, although it seemed like at first it was welcomed and then it would progress. Like he said he wanted to bite her and then leave a bite mark and then get it tattooed and then like have something tattooed around it, which is like weird, but it's within the realms of possibility. Like I'd imagine some couples getting their bite marks tattooed on each other. Like it seems like pretty tame, but like I didn't find, like the reason I wasn't going to talk about this at first was because I figured it'd be a pain in the ass to find all the examples. Because a lot of the times, like news stories will be like, "Oh my God, he said all this terrible stuff," and then you won't see the actual things because they don't want to put like that salacious stuff out on the internet through their provider, I guess, or publication.
Yeah, tabloids don't like putting salacious stuff out.
Yeah, no, they hate it. Definitely doesn't get those clicks.
Yeah. Did you guys?
But it started like escalating though. There's another woman who had an account of how he told her he wanted to crack her ribs and throw them on like a barbecue. I'm just like, you're getting to like the really violent like sort of stuff as well. Just like, I don't know, like is Armie Hammer gonna look the same way again to me? Like it's gonna be tough if I'm watching The Social Network next time.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty hard to watch him in a movie eat a peach that someone else had sexually pleasured themselves with. It just won't feel the same anymore.
Well, speak for yourself.
And you're talking about Lone Ranger, of course.
That's why that crow had such a surprised look on his face. So, yeah, it's so crazy. Like, I don't see him coming back from this, and he's at most probably.
I mean, it's not like
yeah.
He didn't kill someone and eat them. Yeah, he just talked about it like it was a kink of his, right? Like you could see in the chats, it was like, what? He was like, oh, I want to like eat your flesh or whatever the fuck he said. And then he was like, whoa, I've never admitted this out loud before. Like it had never occurred to him that he might be into cannibalism. And since then, I think a couple other women have come forward after his camp denied that. They were like, it's unfounded. Like these texts aren't his. And some women came forward and they were like, oh, that's definitely him. That's what he's into.
Yeah.
But I don't think like, is cannibalism, if you're not acting out on it, is it a career sinking kink to be into?
Well, I mean, like, look at all these horror movies that we watch where people eat each other, and then like fan fiction and everything. It's like it's one thing to say, "Oh, this is what I'm into. I find it sexy." Like, there's obviously people who are like either just attracted to in like a non-sexual way or sexual way to like horror movies, like gore porn, where they're like just chopping each other up. And like, are we going to have to reevaluate our relationship with those movies too over this? Like, are we going to be able to watch, like, say, the only thing I could think of that was sexual, like Cabin Fever. Remember when he thought he was like digitally pleasuring that girl and it ended up being like this open wound in her leg?
That was a dope movie. By the way, did you know they did a remake of that? And it's only like, what, like 10 years old?
Yeah,
and it's almost like shot for shot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty close, yeah.
Oh, crazy! Did they update?
I think Armie
the
Hammer is
effects?
going to star in the next reboot called Cannibal Fever.
Nice. And it's like another thing too is like I don't know, like it's gross and he shouldn't be texting girls these, but is there any actual abuse or is it all like threats, which are bad, but like has it gone to the next level? Like
I think it falls into that same category of like creepy dudes sliding into DMs
Yeah.
and it, you know, does it come into like you say, like the same as him spouting physical threats? It's still making a lot of women feel very unsafe.
mhm.
I don't know if he's officially, you know, quote unquote canceled, whatever that even means.
Yeah.
It was interesting though because he released a movie last month. It was a remake of the Hitchcock classic Rebecca, and it was a completely pointless movie. And there's a lot of think pieces about like nobody knows what to make out of the guy's career so far. He clearly has charisma, but he's just never. It's like he needs a new agent or something to get him into like a vehicle that actually suits his talents. I think he's just going to be maybe lost in obscurity for a couple months before he lands on his feet with another project. I think ultimately, despite how disturbing this is, this will work out okay for him.
Yeah, like for me personally, like all he has to do is not actually harm anybody physically and then just be like, look, I got carried away in the moment. Like sometimes we think we have these fetishes and then just blame it on COVID like everybody else blames it. Like be like, hey, it was COVID, I was bored and I was just thinking about death a lot. But for you guys, is there like if Armie Hammer does this and then they announce like he's going to be the next Marvel superhero in a movie, are you going to be okay with that, or are you going to need something more from him?
Well, what do his cannibal powers entail in that superhero movie?
He's like, if he came out as
Caliban?
Carnage.
Oh, Carnage. Oh, Carnage. No, that's already Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, is that ever going to happen?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's going to happen, unfortunately. Yeah.
Woody's not getting younger.
No, he's not.
No.
I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where, you know, I'm someone who's really into old Hollywood and old movies. If people bothered to look up the details of what was going on behind the scenes with the stars of yesterday, it was crazy. A lot of it was like really, really bad stuff. People don't really care. And so it's like they care about the celebrities they know now. Yeah, it's like kind of Tyler said. I think Armie Hammer takes a break, goes away for a while. Maybe he like makes fun of himself on SNL or something, and suddenly people are like, "We love him again."
Oh yeah.
I don't know. It could be anything. I don't know. I don't know anymore. The world has gone crazy, and I don't know anymore.
It's funny that you mentioned like old Hollywood, like not even old Hollywood, like early 2000s, late 90s Hollywood. Like remember when Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton were like wearing a vial of each other's blood around their neck, and then everybody was like, "Oh, crazy kids into some weird bloodletting sacrifice stuff. We don't care."
Yeah,
I don't know. My girlfriend and I do that. What's wrong with that?
I just remember hearing, it was an anecdote from a star, I can't remember who it was, talking about kind of the personal lives, the sex lives of stars. And just said, I think it was actually a rock star who just said, when you can have anything really at any time, your tastes get weirder and weirder because it's like pushing the boundaries. I don't know if that's what Armie Hammer's has going on. Who knows? But it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, that could be like, it could be like he's just like his, what it takes for him to like climax is getting pushed further and further into the darkness.
I don't want that image in my head.
Jesus, Dale.
The Lone Ranger is not ever going to be the same movie to me now.
Well, so I was going to say, is Armie Hammer a big enough star where we're like, okay, this guy has gotten like everything he could ever want from, you know, his level of fame. Now he has to like level up to cannibal. Like, I don't know. I would hold that for like, sure, Johnny Depp maybe, but I don't know about Armie Hammer.
Like, is
like
he
the,
famous
Richard
enough?
Gere gerbil thing
Yeah.
Cam mentioned.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, is Armie Hammer famous enough to go to Little St. James, or is that like, is this in lieu of that sort of activity?
Little St.
What's
James.
Little St. James?
Oh, it's the Epstein Island. Sorry, I was just going for
Oh.
a terrible joke. I'm glad you guys don't know that. It's terrible stuff that you shouldn't know. All right, now that I stalled
you
the
know it?
podcast, because I'm into conspiracies.
He took a brief vacation there once.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
We don't talk about that.
this sounds terrible, but I wish I could go there. Like I had that amount of money and fame, and then just didn't go, and just kept the money and fame, because, yeah.
You still wish you could go there?
No, I wish I had the ability to go there and then not go there.
But you decided not to. Okay.
And then keep the money in my bank account, because that's got to be super expensive. Like to go to like some like secret island for like top secret stuff. It's got to be like at least $20,000, I'd imagine.
I can imagine you accidentally ending up on Fire Island instead.
Or Marlon Brando's island.
Yeah, the catering is definitely subpar there, I'd imagine. So now that I completely killed the Armie Hammer talk by bringing up something more nefarious, speaking of comebacks, what do you guys think of Chris Evans coming back to the MCU?
He's been gone so long. I tell you, like the pent up demand to see Cap once again on the big screen after, I don't know, 18 months. It's just really been tough.
Cam, I was messaging you before we even figured out what the topics were going to be for tonight's show. And I was just asking you what your favorite Avenger is. I believe you said Iron Man
or Spider-Man, one or the other, yeah.
Okay. I always go with Captain America. Like that guy really grew on me if he wants to come back. But the thing is, they gave him such a great send-off in that last movie, Endgame. How did they really build upon that? I was saying, like, do like a prequel in which it takes place in the Second World War once again. Like we saw, like, it almost seemed as if he spent like 40 minutes in the Second World War during that first movie. I'm sure there's another, 2-hour adventure that we could do, and where you're not like messing up his send-off or the continuity. And I mean, that could be a little fun too.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely be down to that. Like say something like just something that takes like a whole mission, that takes a whole movie, like a Dunkirk type of deal, where the whole time frame of the movie is in 2 days of actual wartime stuff. And then you could get like Dum Dum back there. What's his name? Dum Dum Dugan?
Yeah,
And
Neil
then,
McDonough.
Yeah, young Bucky and all that stuff, and they could go on like, yeah, that'd be good. Or like I think
they could explain Red Skull's origin story as he's a victim of Armie Hammer.
True. They could also get into how they just retconned all of the Nazis into Hydra. It's just be like, this is what we did. And then
The thing is though, like, I think this is more for appearances in movies than an actual solo film again. And there's a lot of, it's not even teasing at this point. They're introducing the multiverse. That's what the next Doctor Strange movie's about. That's what they're strongly implying the next Spider-Man movie's about. Are we even looking at Prime Captain America? Are we looking at an alternate Captain America? Or conversely, could it just be older Captain America in a mentor-like role like he was at the end of Endgame?
Yeah, that's true. And then because I was reading an article and they were saying that they could sort of look into that whole different Earth where Captain America actually was a Hydra agent, and then he could come back as like the main bad guy for the Avengers to fight or something like that. Or like you were saying, like the mentor, because one of the bonuses they were outlining for him to become a mentor was he doesn't have to do all the stunts. Like he just basically has to get some makeup and be an old man. So he doesn't have to like do months and months of filming and stuff. So if like that was the reason why he didn't want to come back in the first place, was like the physical toil of being in these movies, and that would be a good option.
And both of those options, like the multiverse stuff, it doesn't affect the way we ended that character in Endgame, which is a good thing. But Tyler, you were saying?
Yeah, it just makes me think of how Robert Downey Jr. probably got paid $20 million to appear in that first Spider-Man movie, where it's very obviously like he's standing in front of a green screen for a total of maybe 12 minutes of screen time, and they just like put the helmet over his head digitally. It's like, hey, if Chris Evans can pull that off and still cash one of those checks, I'm sure he's going to go all for it without them kind of, I don't know, spoiling or souring us on like his goodbye scene in Endgame, which I thought was great. Derek, who are your Avengers? Who are your go-to? You have to pick one.
Just one?
Yeah.
Oh Jesus!
Hawkeye,
I mean,
right?
I really
Hawkeye.
no.
You really into archery.
Probably like I would say for the movies, Hulk for sure is.
Oh, that's mine.
Hulk or has anyone seen the new the Vision? What is it?
WandaVision?
WandaVision?
The WandaVision show.
Yeah.
The Vision comics were like super dope, so
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that. But I did like Vision as well until his untimely spoiler alert.
Yeah, I liked Vision too in that old Avengers arcade game. I'm hearing bad things about WandaVision, but that's just from my brother, and he's kind of hard to please. So maybe it's good or maybe
I don't know
it's
how
not.
he could form any sort of opinion based on the 2 episodes that just ran. Like it's they're doing something.
You haven't
different.
met his brother.
Okay. Well,
He's
I just
gonna
like
love the
that.
shout out.
It's you're supposed to sit with it and realize that there is something going on. There's something weird going on, and you just kind of have to go with it, and all will be revealed. Like that's kind of the idea. So this kid should have a little patience. That's all I'm saying.
I saw it and I was like, I wasn't really drawn to it because does it and loosely based on the House of M series like crossover event, or is it just something all its own?
It could. Hypothetically, it could lead into a House of M story if they want to, but it's not the House of M story.
Yeah.
That's the story they have to do. Like that's I think how they got to round out the whole.
Yeah.
That might be a good if this does okay and they get like a multi-season deal, they could start like House of M season 2 or 3 and then go for 2 or 3 seasons with it.
Mm-hmm.
Then,
I have a question though, and this ties into Scarlet Witch because she's going to be appearing in the next Doctor Strange. I was saying we could bring Captain America back through this multiverse concept.
Mm-hmm.
Does the multiverse thing make you guys nervous as movie fans? Like, does this seem like this could be potentially something of a nightmare?
Yes. It could it could do that thing where it just takes away all the stakes. Like if they're like have multiverses, are we going to see Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man again as well? Like Captain America was just old at the end, and then they could have him as old. But Captain America, Iron Man was for sure dead. And so, are they gonna like bring him back because Dr. Dolittle failed so hard, and now he's probably more willing to be in a Marvel movie again? And then it's like. So you'll be watching this movie and then you'll like see something bad happen. You're like, they'll probably just go get him back from a different universe and just leave the broken one over there. It's
It's a plot device where like nothing is ever permanent, right? Like you can always bring back dead characters. You can change any plot line that you want just by invoking the multiverse. So I would rather not see them lean on that too heavily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that feels like once you open it up, I don't know how you close it off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my concern as well. And, my parents have watched all these Marvel movies and enjoyed most of them. I think once you start introducing multiverses, they're gone. They're done. Done.
Yeah.
Like it's going to lose, I think, a lot of just very casual watchers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like
they were kind of hinting at it in the last Spider-Man. It was all kind of revealed to be a hoax by the end, but I think they have been planting seeds for this is kind of the path that they want to go down. I think I have enough faith in Kevin Feige at this point to not make a mess of it. Like, if you look at the trajectory of all these Marvel movies, like, I have a pretty easy time, following where the story's been going. Like, they haven't made it too convoluted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like we're entering phase 4 right now, right? Like, that's what the Black Widow movie and stuff is. And then have they already mapped out phase 5? Have you guys heard? Like, because they could this multiverse thing could be like a Hail Mary if either phase 4 or phase 5 kind of just doesn't do as well as the first 3 phases.
I mean, they've planned out a lot of movies. I don't think we know yet, though, where the phase lines could be. That's more the issue. We don't know what the stories are to a lot of these movies coming up. And so where they actually decide to draw the line, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was going to say, now that Disney owns Fox as well, and they can bring in like the X-Men and Deadpool and Fantastic Four. And is there any other franchises that have been out of basically the MCU's reach that are now in there?
No, it's really just X-Men and Fantastic Four. But
Yeah.
Deadpool's kind of become his own franchise, so you can say Deadpool's there now, of course, too.
Nice. I'm looking forward to a good Fantastic Four movie. Like, they've had 3 all right movies that everybody else hated. I liked them just because it was the Fantastic Four, but it would be nice to see like an MCU like a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie done right, like in the same vein as the Avengers and stuff.
Well, there's 4 of us right now. Who would you be, Dale?
Oh, The Thing. Easy.
Okay.
You're gonna do the Rocky Dong argument
Rocky
from
Dong!
Mallrats? Don't.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. When Stanley's like, this guy's really obsessed with penises. Yeah, what would you guys be?
I'd be Reed Hastings, obviously.
Who's Reed Hastings?
Or Reed Richards.
That's right. Yeah, Richards.
Yeah.
I didn't know who he was talking about, but I was gonna be like, is this one of the characters' names I don't know? Because I thought I knew them. But yeah.
He's their personal assistant. Who would I be? I'm gonna take Human Torch. Why not?
Nice. So
Live
Derek,
wild.
you're Invisible Woman.
I would 100% be Invisible Woman. Yes, absolutely.
We could go
That
have a
is the best
transgender Fantastic Four character.
Superpower. I mean, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And
I
to
just
be fair,
remembered who Reed Hastings is.
Who is
He's
he?
He's the CEO of Netflix.
That would be awesome if he just showed up in the movie. He's like, all right, guys, this looks good. This looks good. I like what you're doing here. We'll give you some money.
And to be fair, the last couple times Tyler appeared on this show, Derek was invisible. So
True.
There you go.
Yeah.
there we go.
That's
My
a good
alter
point.
ego.
Tying it all back.
I was actually in my Pokeroo costume. So
Nice. Oh yeah, so, since this is so movie heavy, why don't we head right into the Javier Bardem and Nicole Kidman portraying Lucy. Oh fuck, I just forgot her name. Lucille Ball.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounded wrong in my head. I don't know.
Were they
And-
contractually obligated to hire a redheaded woman as opposed to just somebody that could put on a wig? Like, I don't see Nicole Kidman as Lucille Ball.
Like
Like,
her
I just-
face, like I don't want to be that guy who doesn't accept women for their beauty and all that stuff in any form that they're in. But she's had
What?
so much work done to her face.
he said the butt himself.
I don't think she can do the facial expressions that Lucille Ball was famous for. Like you
Will
look
it
at
be
any
like
still
Jim
from
Carrey in The Mask, like those
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
effects on her. Like,
I mean, Lucille Ball was very dexterous with her expressions. Like she could really make wild expressions. That's why she was so funny, partly.
Mhm.
And I mean, I can't say Nicole Kidman can't do it, but I haven't seen evidence of this.
Yeah.
And also, Nicole Kidman, I'm trying to think, is she known for her comedic chops, like comedic delivery? Like she's
Bewitched.
Yeah, I was gonna say she was in Bewitched, and
like To Die For is darkly funny, but it's not like comedy.
yeah.
Wasn't her marriage to Tom Cruise a big joke, though?
Oh,
Yikes.
Real heat. Shots fired. Yeah, like I don't know, like Javier Bardem as was it Ricky Ricardo? Was that
Ricky
his name?
Ricardo.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't really watched the show, so I'm not familiar with that character, but it just kind of seems like whatever, like just put him in there, it should be fine.
Then why are you
Yeah.
stomping grapes right now?
I think he's good casting. Javier Bardem is one of those actors who, no matter what the role is, even if you give him like Pirates of the Caribbean Part 5, he's great.
Yeah.
So if the script is decent and you have a decent director on this thing, then Javier Bardem will be amazing. He'll be great. I have no
Mhm.
concerns about him. But I do think like the Lucille Ball role, I'm sure a lot of actresses want that role. Like that is a really awesome showcase role where you get
Yeah.
to do a lot. So Nicole Kidman is a very versatile actress, an Oscar winner. She's done a lot of great things over her career. I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt that they have something. They know that she can pull it off. So
Mhm.
you remember when back in the day they were going to make the Three Stooges movie and like Sean Penn desperately wanted to be one of the Stooges, and we were all like, what? Like that's insane. But maybe
Yeah.
there was magic there. Maybe, and we
Mhm.
just never got to see it. And maybe this will be magic.
I do
Yeah.
recall it when they did make the Three Stooges movie. Instead of Sean Penn, they got Sean Hayes instead. It was like, and it was like Will Sasso, and it really was like the D team that they ended up casting
Yeah.
for this.
Although I was pleasantly surprised by that because I saw who was in it and I was like, well, weird, Three Stooges. And I watched it and I was like, Will Sasso is funny in anything. And sometimes I forget. And then I'm like, why would I forget that Will Sasso's so entertaining? But as Curly, I think he really nailed it. But yeah, what
It's
I was
actually
going to
a pretty
say.
funny movie, actually. Pretty
Yeah.
funny.
What I was going to say about this is since it's a biopic and maybe they're going to lean heavily on the behind the scenes of maybe what's happened to Lucille Ball at the tail end of her career. Like maybe when I Love Lucy was near the end and they
Well,
have them as older characters.
What I understand though is going to take place over the course of 1 week of filming I Love Lucy. So I think like the problem with biopics is like they often are like spread across like 50 years of a
An
person's
entire lifetime.
life.
Yeah.
And they're just these really listless affairs. Like there's not that many amazing biopics. If they put in a confined sort of time period, week, you've easy to kind of get the setup, the climax, the resolution in a contained way that I think would be really for viewers, you know. So I'm intrigued by this for sure.
Well, it's kind of like the Steve Jobs film, which I really thought was fantastic with Michael Fassbender. And that one, again, small amounts of time, but it spoke to the larger figure in a more interesting way. And I think that's what they need to do. I know like people love movies like Walk the Line or Ray, for example, and I was fine with them, but they ultimately feel a little bit like Wikipedia filmmaking, and they end up having to change so many details anyway that it's not even that compelling because a lot of it feels made up. So I'm all for them doing something that's confined, come up with a really artistic bent on it, and yeah, do something interesting. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to say, if you could cast any, like we're all pretty hung up on this whole Nicole Kidman as Lucille Ball. Who would you cast as Lucille Ball instead?
I think somebody like Catherine Hahn or Melissa Villaseñor. I think just throw some red wigs on those actresses, and I definitely think that they have the comedic chops to pull that off.
What about going like left of field? Like, what about someone like Kate Blanchett? Because you'd never expect that.
Hepburn down. I think she could pull off Lucille Ball as well. So
Yeah.
Derek?
Who am I saying for Lucille Ball?
Yeah.
What's her name?
Okay.
Goldie Hawn's daughter.
Oh, Kate Hudson.
There we go. Thank
Okay.
you. That one.
I would go with, I can't remember her name. The girl from Saturday Night Live, the blonde who was in Ghostbusters.
Oh,
Kristen Wiig?
No.
or Kate McKinnon.
Yeah,
Oh.
Kate McKinnon. I'd go with Kate McKinnon and the guy who played Freddie Mercury. The guy who was in.
Oh, Rami Malek.
Yeah, those two. But then you would go like a way younger. Like that's who I'd cast.
I
Yep.
dig. Yeah.
We should just start a casting podcast where we just like hypothetical movie, we cast it.
And I will just call it free advice for casting directors. I do appreciate a good stunt cast though, which I feel is more like the Javier Bardem one. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could just be so good that we totally get over it. Like maybe they do some like, another thing too is like, are they going to use old like actual film from the Lucille Ball show and then just give her some makeup so she looks like it, or give her like digital effects to make her look younger?
From what I understand, they are going to use all the old footage and then CGI their heads on top of the old figures, you know, so it'll be their body, and it's actually going to be disproportionate, so it's going to be like giant heads on top of regular sized bodies.
They'll look like Funko Pop figures.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that sounds like the worst thing ever, but then do you guys remember that old movie Thumb Wars? I don't know why that popped into my head today.
Yeah. Oh God, yes, I do remember.
What's
is
Thumb
this
Wars?
movie?
It was
Okay.
they retold Star Wars with a guy had faces drawn on his thumbs, and it was just like I was thinking about, like it came up like I was driving home today, and I was like, what was that? Like, how did that get forwarded and okayed through the like production team and everything? It was crazy.
It was Steve Odenkirk who directed the second Ace Ventura film, and also that, what was it name? The name of it, was it Kung Pao?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, he did that as well. And then he like really got on that Thumb Wars thing, and I think they did other thumb related films as well. Most of them were like straight to video or TV specials, but there was, for a short period of human history, a thumb craze.
Back in the thumb years, in the aughts. Was that, yeah, the early aughts, the years
Yeah,
of the
about that.
thumb.
All this thumb talk has Armie Hammer drooling right now.
He's like, that movie sounds delicious.
Finger looking good.
Nice. I guess we could steer ourselves away from the movie talk. Just gonna talk about. So I sent you guys the list of stuff to talk about. Did you see this thing over in the Netherlands?
No ham sandwiches for you, man.
Yeah, I love this story because it's just like the amount of petty that a Dutch person can get into. And I could say this because I'm Dutch. And after reading this story, I was like, oh, maybe that explains a lot of stuff in my family and holding grudges and stuff from my childhood. But what happened was on January 1st this year, whatever, Brexit finally went through. Still don't know the details. We've only had like 4 years to figure out what was actually going on, but I don't really know what is. And
I don't think they do either. In your defense, like they're still figuring it out.
Yeah, like have they figured out what they're doing with Ireland yet? I don't think they have. So there's like a bunch of people who go across some ferry something from England, from the UK to the Netherlands to work, and or like professional drivers like who drive trucks and stuff. So at the border, when they're eating lunch in their car, they were taking all their sandwiches and food away from them because the EU has this rule where you can't bring any product or food that derives from an animal from anywhere else, because it's like kind of like a catch-all thing to stop viruses and stuff. And
it is the same thing. Like if you're coming back into Canada from a different country, you do have to declare like meats or cheeses, or it's like every time I go to Philly, I fill up my suitcase with they have like this shit called scrapple, which is just like they basically grind up all the leftover pig parts and like mix it and form it into this loaf, and it's like pig bread. Dale, you would love it, man.
I was expecting something made out of apples, not ground up pig parts.
No, it's pig parts. But I bring these like Philly meats back with me, and the customs officials always give me a hard time over it. So like any meats or cheeses or even plants, you have to declare when you go into any country.
Yeah, but if you're driving across the border, like say we went to Point Roberts or something, they wouldn't take the sandwich out of our hand and throw it away.
No, unless if there was a highly contentious where we were like, well, fuck it, we're separating from North America because
that's
we
true.
Don't like, then they probably do that.
Yeah, and so like the custom agents in the Netherlands were like saying like taking everybody's like sandwiches and stuff away from them and throwing them away and being like, well, you guys aren't part of the EU anymore. And it's just a super petty move that I kind of respect. Like, it's kind of like ridiculous, but at the same time you're like, well, I mean, they did leave the EU and it kind of pissed everybody else off.
It was a funny story to read because obviously they made like a big deal about it. But I have to imagine the actual event was literally just like, got to take that, sorry. And the other person be like, shoulder shrug. Here you go. Goes in the garbage.
I paid €6 for that. Yeah, it doesn't.
And a reporter's like, oh man, this is gold. Gold.
The reality is just a lot more clumsy and awkward than any of us would wish. Like it wasn't a dramatic like yelling fight or anything.
SWAT team dropping in on rappel ropes to take your ham sandwich,
smashing the window and just grabbing it, throwing it away.
It would be a great anecdote to have happen to you, though, to be able to just tell your friends when you got to work.
Oh yeah, be like, hey, how's it going? You'd be like, well, I'm hungry, and you want to hear why? I had a sandwich and now I don't. But I feel like the food in the Netherlands would be better than the food in the UK, I mean, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but if you're going by the cultural palette, I mean, you could probably get just a whole bunch of chocolate and cheese from Holland that you couldn't really get from.
You prefer frites over chips? Is that it?
Yes, it does sound a lot fancier if you eat the frites. Sweet.
And then just come to Canada for the poutine. We can have all these sorts of competitions between the three countries.
Yeah, just mash them all together into one delicious meal.
And it'll get confiscated next time somebody tries to bring it across the border.
Yeah, there's no that all the shipments of poutine to the States just suddenly stops.
I like to picture trains filled with poutine going southbound.
Do you think if they shipped them, it would be like 3 separate cars? Like the first car's all the gravy,
yeah, those
second
big
car's
gravy tanks.
Yeah,
you've seen them.
Oh, is that what those tanker cars are? That's just Canadian
that's
gravy.
Canadian crude, as they call it.
Yeah, brown gold. So, other things that are like specifically Canadian. Sorry, do you have another poutine
crude
joke?
or Canadian curd?
Oh,
Nice.
nice. Let's just make poutine jokes all night. Let's do that. I was gonna bring up this monolith outside of Calgary that I was super pumped for it. Like the first one that I heard of was the one in Utah, and then there was one over in Europe somewhere, and they're all mysterious and they're like, we don't know where these came from. And somebody was like, oh, it might have been an artist thing, and they're like, we'll never know. And then one showed up in Calgary, and it was like the biggest wet blanket ever, because it's just like, oh, there's another monolith, and an artist built it because she didn't want this like strip coal mine to go in. And you're like, so it's not aliens?
Well, do you know what my theory is?
Yeah.
Someone put them there.
That's what happened.
Is that in the spirit of monoliths, though? Don't they just appear from the ether?
I don't think extraterrestrial life have been viewing 2001: A Space Odyssey and decided that to start communicating with mankind.
Plus, I'm not sure anyone could figure out the monoliths in 2001: A Space Odyssey, much less in real life.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard people be like, that's just our cell phones, man. That's what the monolith is.
Sure.
Wait,
Yeah.
so what is it? There's a marketing message on a monolith?
No, it's just like this artist who was out of work because of COVID. She built it because there's this planned strip mine going into the Rockies. I can't remember. They said specifically where, but they're gonna like basically build a strip mine to get coal. And she put this polished stainless steel monolith up because she wanted it to reflect all the nature, so people would like gain awareness of how beautiful everything is, so they wouldn't build a mine.
It's like those like reflecting. It just reminds me of those signs that they have where you'll drive and it'll like yell your speed at you in an attempt to get you to slow down. And it's like, motherfucker, I have a speedometer in my car right in front of me 24 hours a day. It's like, that's not, I know what nature looks like. I don't need this thing, this monolith to tell me that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the stuff reflecting that I can clearly see as I'm looking at this thing anyway.
So is this woman going to try to keep this thing there for a while, or is it going to be as temporary as the other ones?
Well, she said she had long-term ideas for it or she had a long-term plan because she had approached the people who own the private property, and she's already had to fix it once because it's in Alberta. So of course somebody with a pickup truck came and tried to rip it over and destroy it.
Classic Alberta.
Didn't last long. Like it only went up, I think, this month sometime. And yeah, so she was, I guess, planning to leave it there because she said she made it out of stainless steel specifically because that doesn't rust, so it'll last a long time and be able to stand up to the elements better. But I can't see this thing actually lasting on someone's private property in the middle of nowhere without someone else who owns a truck coming and trying to rip it apart.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
I would love it if she was like, I was inspired by the movie 2010, the year we make contact.
And somebody be like, "Hey, isn't that the movie that the guys from Jaws was in?"
That's right. Yeah. The sequel that most people have forgotten.
Me and Cam saw, and nobody else did.
Yeah, have you guys seen it?
I've seen it,
No.
but I watched it.
I have not bothered with it. I enjoyed 2001. I thought that was great. But when I go on Rotten Tomatoes and I look at those tomato scores for bad movies, I'm just like, whatever effort I could have made, it's just completely sapped from me at that point.
Yeah, like, is this worth the 2 hours it'll take of my life to see? I made the
There's so many
dumbest
great movies. Like, why actively
That's true.
seek out a bad one?
The funny thing was, I read the book of 2010, the year we made contact, but I never read 2001 because I'd watched the movie and I was like, well, I already know the movie. So I know the plot. So I'm not going to read that book and have it already spoiled for me. So I'm going to read 2010 instead. And it's far inferior.
Is it? Yeah. I mean, I thought the 2010 was okay. It was fun.
Yeah.
I
It's no
enjoyed it more-
2001, that's for sure.
No, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, though.
How does it compare to 1984?
The movie or the book?
The year?
The number.
I'll say this much: 2010 is much better than 1941.
Oh, the Spielberg film.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah,
Is that a war
terrible.
movie?
Sort of. It's a comedy, I guess. It's a very loud, obnoxious comedy.
Oh.
If a film director hears it's a comedy, I guess that must be just absolutely gutting.
They're like, success.
It's like he was like really full of himself at that point because it opens with him spoofing Jaws, and you're just like, oh no.
This looks like it's gonna be good. As he's spoofing that movie.
Yeah, spoofing his own movie.
His
from,
own
like,
movie, yeah.
Yeah.
4 years earlier.
Yeah, that's no bueno.
No.
I'm looking forward to David Fincher spoofing Mank in about 3 years. The guffaws, it'll just keep coming.
What, Mank?
Yeah, that was the new David Fincher movie that hit Netflix last month.
Is it good? I've never heard it. I didn't hear anything about it.
I really liked it. Cam was more
Middle of
tepid.
the road. Yeah.
On it.
Yeah.
But essentially, it follows kind of the story of the screenwriter behind Citizen Kane, and you have to have a lot of knowledge about like California politics at the time, as well as like Hollywood politics. So your enjoyment is contingent, on a lot of that sort of stuff. But I found it like I was really sucked into it, and yeah.
What year was that set? Like the 70s then? 60s?
1940.
No, this is 1941.
Yeah.
Or no, it was
was it 40?
I think it was 1940 because it
had
was before the
flashbacks
U.S.
to the 30s, right? Because it was
Well, it was
flashing
before
back.
the U.S. It was before the U.S. Was in the Second World War.
Yeah.
And that was actually kind of a plot point going on within this movie, is because the U.S. It was like, how do you feel about dictators at that point? And so,
I hear bad things.
yeah.
Yeah.
What a hot take for you there, Dale.
Hey, I don't shy away from being controversial. I was gonna say, what year did Citizen Kane come out? Was that?
I think it was 1941.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, you'd think I'd know more about a movie I was forced to watch like 5 times in college by every like cinematic class I ever took. They're like, oh, you want to learn about making a movie? Watch Citizen Kane. Oh, you want to learn about appreciating movies? Watch Citizen Kane. And then it's just like, oh, we're going to watch Citizen Kane for this writing class too. And you're like, ugh.
Well, the thing is, like, when I first saw it, the problem for me, though, is like I had seen it spoofed so many times in all the pop culture as a kid that when I finally saw it when I was like 18 or 19, it didn't resonate with me the way that it obviously would have resonated with the people that, like, 80 years ago. So I can totally appreciate doing and what they accomplished, but to me, it just kind of, there's too many like Tiny Toon references or Simpsons references.
Yeah, exactly.
My head went to as I watched it.
Yeah, one of the things was my teacher, he would always be like, they actually dug holes in the floor so they could get camera angles lower than the people. And it's like, okay, so like nobody thought of that before? Was there like specific emotion you could only convey from that low of an angle?
I mean, it's one of those
A lot
movies.
of nostril action.
It's one of those movies that changed the way movies look, but people look at how everything has, how everything evolved since, and then they go back to Citizen Kane and they're like, okay. But it's a movie that I find, as I've gotten older, much more absorbing just as a story. Because I was about the same age as Tyler when I saw it, 17 or 18. And I, too, was very familiar with the Bobo episode of The Simpsons, for example. And I was like, okay, like that was kind of strange to watch. But it's a movie that I find very rewatchable as I've gotten older. Mostly because I've become like Charles Foster Kane, just kind of like prowling around my manor, getting angry at people.
Yeah, I think we've all come like that.
I can see it.
COVID turned us all
Yeah,
into
especially
Citizen
lately.
Kane. Citizen COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
If only I had my sled, I could go sledding outside.
All right. To wrap it up, do you want to do this? What probably the biggest news item of the week, I think.
Which are we thinking of the same thing?
What?
The aliens thing
Yeah,
or something else? Oh,
the alien. Like in any other era or
yeah.
year, this would have been like the leading story for months straight. And now in like 2021, it's just kind of this quiet little like, oh, by the way, the CIA has declassified all these fucking documents about aliens and UFOs and what they know about it.
It's not about aliens, though. It's about UFOs.
Okay.
And like, but I think that's a important distinction, though. Like, if there was evidence of aliens, I think that would like went off the charts, totally. But it's like they're just like, okay, well, there's more evidence of UFOs, which it's unexplained aerial phenomenon, which it's stuff that they don't know, and so the assumption is like, well, just because you can't explain it, henceforth aliens must exist.
100%.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I totally believe that intelligent life exists out there, but if they're that intelligent, I don't think they're like floating around in like really dumb little like fireballs that are easily detected by jet fighters. If you talk to a lot of like much smarter people than me who think very deeply about it, it's like their assumption is like intelligent life, they're already observing us, but they're not using like drones or something like that. It's maybe they have telescopes in ways we can't even imagine. Telescopes have the ability to transport themselves. They're not visible to our eyes, like that sort of stuff. Like that's how people kind of think, intelligent life is observing us right now, as opposed to like what if we went to a planet and we identified intelligent life that was more primitive than us? We probably wouldn't fire drones down into the atmosphere and float around. Like we would look at it through like telescopes or something like that. We have our own capacity to kind of examine. So I'm not trying to be the wet blanket here, but that's kind of why I push back on people that kind of believe in little green men who just happen to have very similar features to humans in which they're bipedal, they've got 2 eyes and a head and all that. I'm just like, oh, what a coincidence. So do we.
One thing I could say is like the reason that they maybe like intelligent life would maybe use these drones or whatever is if their planet is far enough away that just looking at us through telescopes and then having the lag from the speed of light getting to them, it'd be like that old Star Trek episode where this one planet was watching Earth, but since it was so far away, they were seeing the Hitler era, so they started like just like pretending like taking that all into their own political system. So if you get like these drones that can somehow send information faster than the speed of light, I don't know, some crazy like maybe dimension pinching radar or something that they could send back there, then it would make sense that they would have drones here to look to like observe us.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to think so. I feel very fortunate to have grown up in the era I did, where there was that sort of resurgence of alien stuff. You know, we had the crop circles, shows like the X-Files, the Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction, all these sorts of programs. I was really into the idea. I miss the days where there was like mystery to Earth. You know, there was things like Bigfoot or aliens or Loch Ness Monster. Whereas like nowadays, I feel like that stuff's all so demystified through the internet that you're like, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, like
What's next?
Yeah.
Since we got like
These monoliths are
drones.
fake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just built by an out-of-work artist, and you're like, damn it.
Or like the, you know, we did the whatever the technology was to like scan Lake Ness thoroughly. Nothing there. And I'm like, oh, well, that sucks.
LiDAR really, really put a cramp in that style.
Yeah. So I would love to believe there were actually UFOs. You know, I love watching atomic age sci-fi stuff, you know, Earth versus the flying saucers and stuff like that. So it's really fun. And I would love to be able to have that little bit of mystery to the universe, because Lord knows we could use a little bit of that, considering the fact we're trapped in our homes, bored out of our minds. But I mean, I don't know. I guess I'll just wait and see if someone far more patient and determined than I am will just go through these thousands of pages of documents and find something interesting.
Yeah, it's like you hear about it, you're like, holy crap, 2,700 documents from the CIA? That's awesome. And then you're like, wait, it'd just be like that scene in a movie where they're like going through microfiche, where you're just like scrolling and like looking at a page and it's all blacked out. And you're like, I would get bored probably after like 20 or 30. What we need is like some super nerds to be like, okay, we've gone through everything, and these are the pages that are like at all interesting, and not just like a room service bill from like a Secret Service.
I picture the actual process being a lot like what Adam Driver went through in the movie The Report, where it just takes like years of focus. And I don't have that. I'm far too impatient. I want someone to just give me the, you know, the synopsis, and I can be like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. Like, give me the like 8-episode Netflix series of all the important stuff in there. I don't want to read all of that stuff.
And score it all with a theremin.
Ooh, that would be great.
I mean, you have to.
Yeah. I think the theremin is definitely the best instrument from the atomic age alien stuff.
I went to a David Bowie tribute concert shortly, not too long after his death, and it was here in North Van. And at one point, I can't remember what song it was, but they brought out a theremin. And to me, that was the most magical moment of the night, was watching this woman play a theremin. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Yeah, there was this band. Oh, it kills me. They're like, because I went to college in Kamloops, and there's this band that was in Kamloops for a while and then came here, and they're like, they had the name Wolves in their title. I can't remember what it was. The lead singer was Billy Bones, and they were like rockabilly, and they had a theremin as an instrument in their music. So it was really good, but unfortunately, I can't remember what it is. So maybe I'll Google it and I'll put it in the show notes.
The best instrument I saw at a rock concert is this band called Throw Rag, and the guy literally wore like a washing board, and he played the washing board with his spoons as it was like mic'd up to him. It was just like, I got a laugh out of that. It was like,
scratch it.
That was the guy's.
I want that
UFO.
UFO.
The only instrument that the guy played, though. Like, it wasn't like he was there to sing. He didn't, take it off and grab a guitar at any point. He just played like the washing board the entire night. And I was like, okay, it's dedication.
Okay, I want the UFO documents now scored to that.
That guy and a theremin.
Yeah. The ultimate collaboration.
How many times do you think that guy, when he's practicing with his spoons, had just like dragged his knuckle down the washboard and just been like, like he probably has like calluses all over his knuckles.
He's on a first date. She's like, how'd you get those calluses? He's like, well. You might call me a musician.
Yeah.
Do you like rock stars?
Yeah.
How about old-timey instrument rock stars?
With washboard abs?
Yeah. Zing. I was going to say, she's like, oh, do you play the washtub bass? He's like, oh, better than that. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. I think that's everything that was on our list.
We did it. We made it through an entire list
Boom.
for the first time in podcast history.
Which is weird because usually we just go on some weird tangent like the Citizen Kane thing and it lasts a lot longer. Did you guys have anything you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, what specifically made either of you angry this week or just was noteworthy?
Since the last time you're on the podcast.
If that happens anymore.
Were you like on 6 months ago, I want to say? Was it longer than that?
Yeah, it would have been like May, June. So yeah, about 6 months ago.
So anything since then?
Cam and I, we've mostly just been complaining on our own podcast. We do a Star Trek podcast, and we really did not like this last season of Star Trek Discovery. We had you on, Dale, to talk about it. You were a much bigger fan, at least at the point. I think probably like 8 or 9 episodes in at that point. It had been losing Cam and I for a bit, and so we got to the finale. We took a deep breath. We're like, we'll go into the next season with an open mind. But that was the thing that was riling me up for much of the last, 3.5 months.
Yeah, I've been listening to your guys' podcast after I was on, and it's funny because you guys are like, look, we're a Star Trek podcast. We don't want to be constantly ripping on Star Trek, but it's Discovery, and
they made us do this.
We liked the first 2 seasons. Like Cam and I were fans of what they were trying to do, and then we saw so much potential with this 3rd season, and it just seems as if it just turned into a total mess, like narratively and.
Oh, actually, I wanted to bring up a point with you guys, because we talk about like PC culture and all that stuff on here on this podcast a lot. And this last season of Star Trek Discovery, they had like the first transgender character in Star Trek. They had the first gender neutral character in Star Trek, and they were like in a relationship. And then they've had like, it's basically been like a who's who of the LGBTQ community. And I feel like it's kind of hard to talk about because you don't want to dunk on them, on those characters, because then it just feels like you're not accepting those roles in the universe. But it was almost like they're like, these characters are like, this person is like gender neutral and this person is transgender, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Let's get some of their backstory. And then they're like,
well, I did not want them to make it into an after school special. I just wanted it to be normalized, and I think they succeeded at that. The problem with this, with Star Trek's track record, they have a terrible track record in terms of LGBTQ representation, and just awful. I'm glad that they're finally getting that going on at this point. The problem with this storyline this past season, though, is that you have the non-binary character. We're soon introduced to her trans boyfriend, and the boyfriend disappears for long stretches. So there's no real relationship going on. And it's a very bizarre depiction of a relationship where you're not sure if like the character is just kind of imagining it in their head or not. And so it's, I don't know. They could have done so much better, and I think they kind of like for something. Star Trek continues to have a very, very mixed record when it comes to LGBTQ representation, as far as I'm concerned.
And also the trans character, who's existing in some sort of form that we still don't understand on the show, is portrayed as such a one-note saint. Like, it is a character. There's not a negative thing you could ever say about this character in terms of their traits. They are a beaming, symbol of optimism and wonder. And it's like, that's not an interesting character. That's maybe something you can pull off in a single episode. But in terms of an ongoing character that we're supposed to accept being in a relationship, it's just not interesting to watch. And so, yeah, it's like Tyler was saying, Star Trek has struggled with these relationships a lot in the history of the franchise. There's been times there was rumors that they were planning to make, for example, Geordi LaForge gay back when they were developing TNG, and then they ducked out of that. There was I think it was Reed from Enterprise as well they considered. Ducked out of that as well. They finally get there, and they've had a really shady track record because they, killed one of their gay characters in season 1 Discovery. That turned into a big mess. Now they're doing this sort of stuff here. You want to be like, guys, it almost feels like you're overthinking it, trying to come up with weird twists on all this. Just play it straight. Let the characters do interesting things and we'll be on board.
Yeah. Like one thing Star Trek I always liked was they're always like, this is what this character is unique for. And then they give you an example of how that saves the day in one of the episodes during one of the seasons. And they didn't really, like, they kind of did that. What was her name? Adira?
Yeah.
That was the transgender. Like she's the Wonderkind character, so she's super smart. So they kind of did that in like one of the episodes where she was like computing some problem about the burn or whatever. But they didn't really do that with Gray. Like they weren't like, how can this character who's kind of like corporal, like, is that how you say that? Non-corporeal?
Non-corporeal.
Yeah, non-corporeal.
There we go.
Take him and have his stasis as like, is he a figment of the imagination? Is he real? Have that save the day somehow. That would have been cool. But yeah, like I think maybe because most Star Trek shows, they have like what, 26 episode seasons?
Back in
the 90s,
Yeah. So it feels like they kind of cram too much stuff in this season. Like they're like, oh, we're worried about the burn, and then they're like, oh, the seed ship, and then oh, this character and this character. Whereas if they had 26 episodes to kind of like draw it out and kind of like let everything breathe, maybe that would have worked a bit better.
Well, hopefully they're listening to 4 cisgender white males about our thoughts on this.
I mean, they should be.
Yeah.
They're not.
They're like, well, we didn't know how to handle these characters, but now we do. Well, I wanted to go back to Culber. Like they killed him. What was that? Second season or first season? They killed him.
First, yeah.
Yeah, he's the best character on the show right now. Like
I thought he was absolutely came into his own in season 3. Like they finally gave him direction. Like his was my favorite arc to follow this past season.
Yeah.
For sure.
And he's the first character on Discovery where it's like, you always have those discussions where you're like, who's your favorite captain from the Star Trek universe? Who's your favorite doctor? He's the first character on Discovery where if you say, who's your favorite character in said role from the Star Trek universe? Well, you could be like, well, Culber's up there. Like he's starting to be in the running for my favorite doctor, whereas there's no other role on Discovery like science officer, captain, security officer, badass, or whatever that would like be in contentious with anything else.
They keep turfing everybody like from their jobs. It's like,
it's funny. They killed him and brought him back, and they've gone through like what, 4 captains in 3 seasons.
Yeah. So,
I was gonna, judging by Derek's blank face,
I'm just like, okay, I'll listen
I had you guys on here because I knew we would probably talk about Star Trek.
yeah.
I wanted you guys to give Derek a little, what would you tantalize Derek into getting into Star Trek with? Like, is there any specific episodes or shows that is the best for a newcomer?
Well, we did an episode, Cam, called Beginner's Guide to Star Trek, and we were trying to introduce, some prime episodes to somebody who just wasn't familiar, and we actually got her to start watching kind of the franchise, and so it actually kind of worked on that in that case. So, Cam, is there like, if you had to pick one, we don't want to saddle Derek with like mountains of homework, but like, is there one particular episode that you think kind of epitomizes, or it's going to get like broader audiences as opposed to maybe your own particular obscure niche interest in Star Trek?
Yeah. I would say if I'm leaning towards, say, like introducing someone through the original Star Trek, I would say City on the Edge of Forever or The Trouble with Tribbles. But if we're looking maybe at TNG, which is, I think, more of the accepted mainstream favorite, what do you think, Tyler? Start with Best of Both Worlds, or do you think you want to start?
It's an easy one to hook people into, right?
Yeah, it's a Borg story. It's really exciting, action-packed, great character stuff. I think Best of Both Worlds, that 2-parter, would probably work really well.
Yeah, I agree.
Good, Derek. That's your homework.
I will, 50-50 chance I check it out.
Yeah.
So only a 25% chance he'll watch it like one part.
Yeah.
The 2-parter.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, guys, thanks so much for taking the time to join us again. Welcome back. It was nice to finally be on a podcast at the same time as you. So
Yeah, it
We'll
was great to meet you.
Yeah,
have
thank
to
you
do
so
it
much.
again soon. Where can people go if they want to learn more about you or your shit or the things that you do?
Well, you can just check us out. Look up Subspace Transmissions anywhere you get your podcasts, anywhere. And you can also just find us at Facebook. Actually, just search out Subspace Transmissions because we post.
And you
links
can
there
find me on hotornot.com.
I'm more of
Classics
a,
never go out of style.
I'm more of a high five guy.
Oh man, that's
Taking me back.
one.
Taking me back. You know, you have to think like, would we have all these people storming the capital of the U.S. if the only social media we had was high five?
Well, here's a question. Back in the day, who put their photo up on Hot or Not?
Me.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I did too.
I put it up.
I didn't. I did
You
not.
didn't?
No.
I put it up, and the highest I got was a 4, and I got butthurt, and I took it down and never went back. I was definitely outraged.
I think I got a little higher, just a little. Not to brag,
Wow.
because
Throw
believe
some
me,
shade at Dale.
That's
believe me,
okay, Cam.
I
You're
was not happy.
more attractive than me. You don't have to tell my audience.
No. I was not happy. Like I remember having the same reaction you did. I'm just like,
Yeah.
ugh.
This
Like,
is
pull this
it?
down. I don't want anyone I know seeing this. Pull this down immediately.
That's true. Yeah, and if you want to listen to these guys, I'll be your gateway drug because I've been on their podcast 4 times.
I think at least
yeah.
4.
Yeah, starting like 4. I want to say 3 years ago. Does that
We
sound
definitely had
back,
you on
yeah.
for seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think we've had you on for like when we're not doing episode reviews, we're doing like crazy sorts of ideas. Like the one that we just recorded the other day, it'll be up Sunday evening. It's about ranking one of the main characters from Star Trek. We went through like 67, 68 of them and ranked them
Nice.
all. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Did you end up picking a favorite, or I guess that would be a spoiler alert. People should go listen to it.
Well, you'll have to find out on the.
There you go.
There you
Make
go.
sure you tune in for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Dale, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Facebook. It's just my name. You can find me on, that's my favorite one because it's easiest to remember. On Twitter, I'm at SuperDalebot. Derek's not on Twitter anymore, but you can find him on Facebook still.
Don't bother.
Wait,
I don't
Derek's
do
the
much.
president of the United States?
I don't do much there.
Oh, I was
Never
gonna
saw
ask
me in
you,
this.
since you're not on Twitter, are you leaning more heavily on any other social media platforms, like to kind of just like sucked up your attention span?
What, me?
Yeah.
Reddit for sure. I mean Instagram, but
Reddit's
I've definitely
good.
been spending a lot more time on Reddit, and it's nice because you can kind of like you just find your like little echo chambers or like things that you're interested in, and very like niche interests, and you can hang out and talk with those people.
Yeah.
So cool. That's my advice to you. You can find us on Facebook, where you're probably watching this, or on Twitter, where Dale tweets from Outrage Fact Pod.
Yeah. We're also on.
I don't tweet from there.
Yeah.
anymore
If you're
either.
listening to this audio, like on audio only, because you got their outragefactory.com, you can go to YouTube and watch the videos. I think we started doing the videos on YouTube at, I think it was like episode 116. Basically, when COVID hit and we started doing it over Zoom, we're like, well, we'll record it. And I was like, well, then why don't we just put it up on YouTube? So that's just Outrage Factory Pod on youtube.com. But if you search Outrage Factory, it'll come up.
You can just say YouTube. You don't have to throw the .com on there, but I appreciate it.
Did I just age myself?
Just in case they headed to youtube.org, they might not be able to find it.
Yeah.
It starts with World Wide Web dot.
The classics. All right. Thanks for everyone for joining us, tuning in, listening, and until next week.
Stay angry. Oh, you both got spit guards. Came to play.
I speak very moistly.